absolutely fascinating to see the defense lay out its case for the murders. And it's so disturbing to hear more about the homicides themselves and the crime scene. It's just heartbreaking to think about what those girls went through. Obviously, the official investigation is saying they believe Richard Allen does it, but these three investigators may have been sort of offshoots. And I think one thing that we're really curious to know is the allegation that law enforcement sort of wrongfully rejected this theory, is there any weight to that? Is that something where maybe they should have looked into it more?
Big developments. I mean, big developments tonight in the Delphi murder case. Abby and Libby, best friends, going for a hike near the Monon High Bridge, are murdered. It's a brutal, brutal crime scene. Goes unsolved for 5 years. Then there's an arrest, and this man, Richard Allen, is charged with the murders. Now, let's get to what's happening in this case. You know, we've been talking a lot about it recently because of what the allegations are from the defense relative to this Odinism that is happening. Take a look. Members of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism, hijacked by white nationalists, ritualistically sacrificed Abigail Williams and Liberty German. That is the allegation from the defense. This is what the defense is. Richard Allen didn't do it. These little girls were sacrificed by a group of Odinists who were also apparently white nationalists, okay? Let's take a look at what happened at the scene, because we learned a lot more about the girls, the way their bodies were found, and there were sticks placed on top of them. Now, this is a representation that we've put together based upon the description from the defense on how these sticks were placed on top of the bodies, creating symbols, runes, if you would, that were part of this Odinistic, ritualistic sacrifice that took place at the scene. Why is this important? This is important because this is a case where Richard Allen allegedly confessed to the whole thing. You go back, April 3rd, 2023, Richard Allen made a phone call to his wife. This is when he's locked up. In that phone call, Richard Allen admits several times to his wife that he killed Abby and Libby. Big part of the evidence against this man. So what is the defense saying about this? How do you get from he confesses to the murder to some Odinists are doing it? Well, his explanation for why he confessed is that he was threatened by the guards in the prison where he was being housed. The guards are telling me that my wife and family will be killed unless I call my wife and tell her that I killed those girls. So he's saying he was threatened and made this confession under threat. But why would the guards threaten him? Well, the defense is alleging that the guards were wearing patches and were Odinists. So the killing is like a ritualistic scene with these Odinist symbols that are placed on Libby and Abby. And then when he's put into this prison, he's being guarded by other Odinists who are wearing these patches in the prison. Like the prison guards are wearing these patches, right? So when the defense made these allegations, I brought in the salt shaker, huge grain of salt. I'm like, come on, like, really? That's where we're going? Like, they're wearing Odinist symbols in the prison? Well, now the state has filed some response to all of this, and we have this from the acting warden of the correctional facility, who said the correctional officers at Westville Correctional Facility were allowed to wear patches on their vests until the allegations made by the defense in their motion. So patches were permitted. He also states that the Westville Correctional Facility has very few inmates that practice Odinism, which also means they have inmates that practice Odinism, and the guards are allowed to wear patches. Okay, so where does that get us? That gets us now to the affidavit of Sergeant Randy Jones, a correctional officer, who says, I've been an acting supervisor in APOD where the defendant is housed. I do not practice Odinism, and that Norse paganism heathenry, heathenry is my practicing religion. So he's not practicing Odinism, but he's practicing a different form of paganism called Norse paganism heathenry. I do wear patches on my uniform that identify me as someone who practices Norse paganism heathenry, but then says I'm not part of a cult, I'm not part of a radical hate group, I've never had a one-on-one conversation with the defendant where I tried to influence him in any way. But he is wearing the patches, and he does practice a different form of, I guess, Nordic paganism. Then we've got another one, affidavit from Sergeant Joshua Robinson. Number one, I do not, and this is with a capital N-O-T, practice Odinism. I do wear patches on my uniform that can be, but are not, associated with Odinism. This guy, I think that means, there's a lot of negatives in there, but I think that means he's wearing Odinism patches on his uniform. So the defense is not like lying about this. And the other guy's wearing patches too. And then he says, the patches pay the utmost respect to my religious higher power, the same way a Christian person would wear a cross. And I get it. Hey, you're allowed to practice whatever religion you want in this country. That is clear. It's just, I guess, a little unusual that you're wearing your patches or your religion on your vest that's part of your correctional uniform, but apparently they were. So, despite that grain of salt I had for the defense, there's more than a grain of truth to what they're alleging here in terms of what they saw inside this prison. So now they're able to make these arguments that they can connect the Odinism in the prison with their allegations of this Odinistic, ritualistic murder scene. This is nuts. Let's bring back to the think tank. Judge Gail Byers, Wayne Richter, Michael Sterling. Where am I? What world am I in, Michael Sterling? We've got, you know, when this first broke, I was like, hey, oh man, that grain of salt is so heavy. But now all of a sudden there's a grain of truth to it. That the correctional officers are practicing a religion which is, if you don't want to call it Odinism, it's certainly pretty close to Odinism. It's like a, you know, you're not Catholic, but you're Christian. I don't know. What's going on here, Michael?
Yeah, what's going on is the defense attorney is leaving no stone unturned. He's picking up every rock, every crook, every cranny. He's looking under everything he can to defend his client to the best of his ability. And these things are tying together now, Vinny. I mean, you've got the murder scene, which they demonstrate in their filing, has symbols of this Odinist symbolism. And then you've got guards who, you know, says, oh, I don't practice Odinism, but I do practice what's, I guess, an offshoot of it, Norse paganism heathenry. And another one who says, oh, I wear this symbol, or I wear a symbol that could be associated with it, but it's not. I mean, as if they were going to confess in an affidavit that they actually practice Odinism and threaten the defendant to do this. Obviously, that was not going to happen in an affidavit. But I think that the defense attorney they're turning over every rock, and they're tying some of these loose allegations that may have looked like a grain of salt, and all of a sudden looks like a salt shaker that won't stop. So I think, Vinny, they're able to tie these things together. They're going to have some cognizable arguments to make about, on behalf of Rich Allen and his defense, that these threats were real.
Wayne, I think this trial is not going to be, this is going to be insane inside the courtroom.
It's like something out of a Marvel movie, right? The Thor movies. Odinism. I think it's interesting. I think the state in this case is going to have a lot of trouble if there's no physical evidence connecting this suspect to this crime. All the thunder's been stolen from the state's phone call of him making the confession, because I feel like there's a tacit admission to this Odinism by the corrections deputies in this case. You can frame it any way they want, but I think you read perfectly between the lines, Vinny, when in the opening there. We're not saying we're Odinist, but we're not saying we're not Odinist.
Right.
So if all they have is this phone call, and he can now connect that, hey, I did it under threat, and the threat seems reasonable based on the patches that these corrections officers are
I can't believe they were in the
admitting
patches.
to.
Judge, we only have like 5 seconds, so just give me numbers 0 to 10. How strong is the prosecution's case tonight? 10 being guaranteed conviction, 0 being no chance.
Oh, absolutely. They are probably somewhere in the 4 to 5 neighborhood.
Wow.
Defense has just created reasonable doubt.
That's not good.
They have done a good job.
That's not good.